And I have a good topic for us. It's something that is going to be interesting whether you have ADHD or not, because you probably know somebody that does. Um, and so let me share my screen. I'm going to go ahead and get started here. Bum, bum, bum. And get my uh hide that. I just have to move my little boxes out of the way. Okay. Hopefully you can see that. Um, but welcome. We are talking about a symptom of ADHD that looks nothing like ADHD on the surface, anyway. In fact, many people spend years blaming themselves for this struggle because they don't realize that it can be connected to how their brain is wired. So if you've ever wondered why you can be smart, capable, and successful in some areas of life and then feel completely stuck in others, then this presentation is for you. Um, and so let me ask you a question. And if you're watching this on the replay, answer me as well. Have you ever looked at a task that needed to be done, fully intended to do it, and then somehow not done it? Maybe you even cared deeply about it, but you still didn't get it done. If if that's you, you are not alone. This experience is incredibly common, especially among the people that I coach. I have a group coaching program, the Calm Momentum Mastery, and I also work individually with people as I can. And so if you're interested in getting some support, let's talk. No pressure, but I just need to make sure it's the right fit for you. So, if that is you, you're in the right place. When most people think of ADHD, they picture hyperactivity or distraction or somebody bouncing off the walls. But one of the most common symptoms is difficulty getting started. How many of you struggle to get started on something that you know you need to do? Difficulty getting started. It can look like procrastination, or avoidance, or a lack of motivation, but that's not actually what's happening. Um, and so we're going to talk about that a little bit. The people that I work with usually don't need more information. They already know what to do a lot of times. And they've read the books, and maybe this is you, read the books, listened to the podcast, bought the planners, downloaded the apps, um, bought the courses. The problem isn't knowledge. The problem is execution. And so it's not a knowledge problem. And there's actually a name for this. Researchers often refer to this as an activation issue. Think of it like having a car with plenty of fuel, but trouble turning the ignition. Does that make sense? The desire may be there, the ability may be there, but getting started just feels a lot harder than it should. The challenge is getting the brain to engage in the task. It's not knowing what to do. We know what to do. And this is why ADHD can be so confusing. You might be able to work for hours on something interesting, and you're what we call hyper focused, but you struggle to send a simple email. You know, from the outside, people assume that you're just choosing not to do it, but from the inside, it feels like hitting an invisible wall. So if you have ADHD, I have ADHD. If you do, you know what I'm talking about. Um, that invisible wall. So put in the chat if that's something that you relate to. And I'm going to circle back around. Any questions that you have, put those in the chat. So I'm going to do answer some of those at the end. And many ADHD brains are driven more by interest and novelty, challenge, urgency, or personal meaning, driven more by that than by importance alone. And this means that a task can be extremely important and still feel impossible to begin if it doesn't create enough mental engagement. Something may be super, super important, but if it doesn't feel urgent, um, if it doesn't feel new, if it doesn't catch our interest, then it's really difficult to get started sometimes. It's an invisible tug of war. Do you know what I mean? Um, and this is what it looks like in real life. It often shows up as unopened mail, unfinished projects, delayed decisions, overdue follow up, or a to do list that just keeps getting rewritten, a phone call that you've needed to make forever. It's not because you don't care. Often it's because your brain is struggling to engage. So it's a neurological thing. And all those little tiny tasks just pile up. And over time, this can become emotionally exhausting. People begin to question themselves. They wonder why simple things seem harder for them than they do for everybody else. They relate to that. They may carry years of shame and self-criticism, self-doubt, feeling behind all the time, um, being disappointed in themselves. And that's why traditional productivity advice often falls flat. If the issues were simply discipline, then you would have solved it already. Really, telling yourself to try harder just makes you more frustrated. It doesn't improve results. That's like telling me I wear glasses, just squint. It's not an issue of trying harder or not hard enough. But people tell you that, just try harder, just be more disciplined, get up earlier, use more willpower, leave earlier, you know. Um, and it makes sense to everybody else, but when you have uh, the neurological issue in your brain, it it just increases the frustration, you know. So what does help? If it's not just getting more discipline, self-discipline, well, external structure. What helps is structure, accountability, um, use visual reminders, clear next actions. External systems can reduce the activation energy required to get moving. It makes it easier to get started because it reduces that friction in your brain. The one reason coaching and community can be so powerful is that it helps with that structure that's needed. I love my group coaching program, not because I'm the leader of it, but because of the people. They're so encouraging to each other and so supportive, and they really care about each other. It's a small group. I do have a couple of openings right now at the time I'm recording this. So do reach out to talk to me if you're interested, because that accountability is so helpful to people. And it's a group that's full of grace. So there's no shame in that group. But external structure, reminders, visual, timers, things like that. So helpful. One of my favorite reminders is this: motivation follows action. Most motivation often follows action. We wait until we feel ready a lot of times, but readiness doesn't appear until after we start sometimes. You know what I mean? I always say, I have all these little sayings. One of my Cindyisms is that waiting for motivation is never a good strategy. Um, so tiny actions build momentum, and momentum creates confidence. I just coached a lady this morning in a one-on-one session, and one of the things she wanted to do was she's been putting off organizing some papers into binders. And I said, well, why not just do one section instead of a whole binder? And she was like, oh, yeah, that's a good idea. Because if you can break something down into smaller steps, it it's much easier to take action. And once you take action, the motivation kicks in. Once she finishes one section, it's going to be so much easier for her to keep going. Um, so action creates motivation. Motivation does not create action. If you sit around and wait to feel motivated to do something, you may be waiting a very long time. Motivation is just a feeling, and it's not reliable. So you've got to apply some of the tricks that I teach to get yourself to take action, even when you don't feel like it. And that's one of the things that I work with people on. So I'm going to give you just a few practical tools. I mentioned already, break tasks down into ridiculously small steps, ridiculously small. Instead of write the report, how about turn on the computer, open the document, write one sentence. I mean, ridiculously small, because it's so much easier to get started. And then once you get started, the momentum kicks in. Use a timer that instills that sense of urgency. Work alongside somebody else. Remove distractions. Make the first step visible and obvious. And I go into detail with my coaching on all this, but these are just some highlights. Small adjustments can create big changes. That's one thing I want you to remember. Small adjustments can create big changes. You don't have to overhaul your whole life, but reduce friction, use timers, work alongside somebody, remove distractions, use visual cues. All of those can be helpful. And I want you to stop interpreting every struggle as a character flaw. You're not incapable. You're not lazy. You're not failing. You may simply be working with a brain that requires different strategies. And that's why I use ADHD friendly strategies in my coaching, even if a person doesn't have ADHD. Because if they have what I call a busy brain, these things work. So understanding that can be incredibly freeing. You're not broken. Your brain simply works differently. And different is not bad. It's just different. Okay? So as we wrap up, and then I want to answer any questions you guys have, I want you to remember this. The goal is not perfection. The goal is calm, focus, momentum. One small step today is worth more than the perfect plan someday. Take action today. Create that momentum by taking the next small step. And then when you take that step, you take the next small step after it. Does that make sense? And so I appreciate you listening, by the way. I'm fairly new to Substack, where I'm initially recording this. And so I appreciate all of you listening. And if you like support creating systems that work with your brain instead of against it, I would love to continue the conversation. We'll hop on Zoom, and I'll find out a little bit more about what you're dealing with, and see if there's a way I can help, or if there's somebody I could refer you to. So let me figure out how to stop sharing my screen without exiting this whole thing here. Yeah, let me, boom, boom. Okay. Now let me stop sharing. There we go. All right. Hi, AJ. Yeah, so looks like a lot of people are going to be watching the replay or watching on another platform other than Substack. That is fine. But AJ, appreciate you being here. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. I do want to try to do more of these live trainings here on Substack. And so send me a message and let me know what kind of topics you're interested in, topics that have to do with productivity or time management, ADHD, or faith. Let me know, and I'll be glad to take your suggestions. So I do have a free live masterclass coming up, and I'll put the information under this. But hope that you, the time that I'm recording this is before the 4th of July weekend, holiday weekend here in the US. And so I hope that you have a safe holiday. I have a dog I had 2 dogs, but one of them is just terrified of fireworks. And we live right by the park in my town where they're doing this huge, giant fireworks display. And so I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to keep her calm. She goes under the bed and shakes. I just feel so bad for her. She probably thinks the world is ending or something. But anyway, stay safe and have a good time. Enjoy your family. Be grateful for our country and those who are protecting our freedoms now, and those who have given their the ultimate sacrifice, and their families. We appreciate you. And I'm rambling, so I'm going to cut this off if I don't see any more questions. I hope you have a great day. Bye.